The alarm screamed through Threshold Station at exactly 600 hours. Daho was already awake when it started. He had been standing at the observation window for the past hour, watching the red sun pulse with angry light. Something was wrong with the star. He had known it in his bones before the scientists confirmed it. "Commander Daho, we need you in the command center." The voice came through his communication device. It was Taeyang, the young officer who handled all the station's communications. The kid sounded scared. Daho grabbed his jacket and ran. The corridors of Threshold Station were already filling with Vryn workers. The insect-like aliens moved on 6 legs, their bodies covered in hard shells that gleamed under the artificial lights. They clicked and chirped to each other in their own language, but Daho could hear the fear in those sounds. Fear sounded the same in every language. The command center was chaos. Screens flashed red warnings. Numbers scrolled too fast to read. Vryn technicians worked at their stations, their antenna twitching with stress. Daho spotted Hana immediately. The human medical officer stood near the main display, her face pale. "Tell me," Daho said simply. Hana turned to him. "The star is dying. Not in a million years like it should, now. Soon. The scientists say we have maybe 72 hours before it explodes. 72 hours. 3 days. Daho felt his stomach drop. "How many people on this station?" 40,000 Vryn. About 50 humans, including us." Hana's voice was steady, but her hands shook. "The Vryn have already sent distress calls to the Galactic Coalition. Every channel, every frequency, and Daho already knew the answer. He could see it in her eyes. The nearest coalition ships are 6 days away, minimum. 6 days. They had 3. The math was simple and terrible. Taeyang looked up from his station. The young man's eyes were red. "Commander, the Vryn merchant fleet is here. They're trying to evacuate people, but their ships are too slow. They don't have enough fast ships. They can't save everyone." Daho watched the main screen. It showed the red sun swollen and angry. Even as he watched, a massive flare erupted from its surface. The flare was bigger than 10 Earths put together. The station's shields absorbed the radiation, but the numbers showed the shields were weakening. Each flare was stronger than the last. "How many can the Vryn ships save?" he asked. Taeyang checked his data. "Maybe 10,000. 15 if they overload their life support systems. 10,000 out of 40,000. Daho closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he saw the Vryn station commander approaching. The alien's name was something Daho couldn't pronounce, so everyone called him First Speaker. The Vryn stood tall on his 6 legs, but his antenna drooped. That meant sadness in Vryn body language. "Human Commander Daho," First Speaker said in carefully pronounced human language. "We have made our calculations. We cannot save our people. Not all of them." "I know," Daho said quietly. "I'm sorry." First Speaker made a clicking sound. It might have been a laugh or a sob. "Your people offered to help us build this station 20 years ago. We said no. We said humans were too new to the galaxy, too dangerous, too reckless." The alien's antenna twitched. "Now we die because we were too proud." Daho didn't know what to say to that. It was true. The Vryn had voted against humans in the Coalition Council many times. They had blocked human trade routes. They had called humans primitive. But that was politics. These were people about to die. "We'll help however we can," Daho said. "Our ships, our shuttles, whatever you need." "Your small diplomatic ship?" First Speaker's antenna quivered. "Thank you, human, but it changes nothing. We chose this fate long ago." The alien walked away. Daho wanted to punch something, but that wouldn't help. He looked at his small team. 50 humans couldn't save 40,000 Vryn. The universe was cruel sometimes. Hours passed. The evacuation began, but it was hopeless. Vryn families lined up at the docking bays. The elderly, the young ones barely hatched. Workers who had spent their whole lives in these mines. They all knew the truth. Most of them would die here. Hana set up medical stations to help the Vryn stay calm. She handed out sedatives to those who couldn't handle the panic. She held the handclaws of Vryn mothers who had to choose which of their children would get on the ships. Daho watched her work and wondered how she stayed so strong. Taeyang never left his station. He sent message after message into the void. "This is Threshold Station. 40,000 souls need rescue. This is Threshold Station. Please, someone help us." His voice got hoarse from repeating the same words. Daho brought him water and told him to rest, but the young officer refused. "Someone has to hear us," Taeyang said. "Someone has to care," but space was vast and empty. The coalition ships were too far. No one else would come to this forgotten mining station on the edge of nowhere. On the second day, the station started to shake. The star's gravity was pulling at them. Deho ordered all humans to help with the evacuation. They carried Vryn children. They guided the elderly to the ships. They worked until their muscles screamed and their lungs burned. The Vryn watched them with surprise. These humans had no reason to help. The Vryn had been cruel to humanity. But the humans kept working anyway, kept trying to save one more life than another. That night, Deho couldn't sleep. He stood at his window again, watching the dying sun. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Red and gold and orange swirling with deadly fire. He thought about his family back on Earth. He thought about all the Vryn families that would end here. Taeyang's voice suddenly cut through his thoughts. Commander. Commander, you need to come now. Deho ran back to the command center. Taeyang was standing at his station, staring at his screens with wide eyes. What is it? Deho demanded. Taeyang's hands shook as he pointed at the long-range sensors. Ships, sir. I'm detecting ships. Moving fast, very fast. Faster than anything in the coalition fleet. Hana appeared beside them. Who is it, pirates? Scavengers? Taeyang worked his controls, trying to identify the signatures. His voice was barely a whisper. Sir, I think they're human ships. Deho stared at the screen. 11 contacts, burning through space at impossible speeds, heading straight for Threshold Station. 11 ships appearing out of nowhere, racing toward people who had never been their friends. The Vryn gathered around the screens. First speaker clicked something in his own language. Then he looked at Deho with all 4 of his eyes wide. But why? The alien asked. Why would they come? Deho didn't have an answer yet. But deep in his chest, something that felt like hope started to burn. The human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. On Threshold Station's sensors, they appeared like falling stars, bright and sudden. Taeyang counted them again to make sure. 11 ships. Not military vessels, not coalition rescue ships. These were cargo haulers, colony transports, and one old cruiser that looked like it had seen better days. The largest ship opened a communication channel. A woman's voice came through, clear and calm. Threshold Station. This is Captain Isel of the human vessel Iron Chronicle. We received your distress call. We're here to help. The command center went silent. Every Vryn stopped working. First speaker's antenna stood straight up in shock. He looked at Deho as if the human commander could explain this miracle. Deho activated his communicator with shaking hands. Captain Isel, this is Commander Deho. We weren't expecting anyone, especially not humans. The coalition ships won't arrive in time. We know, Captain Isel replied. That's why we came. We're not coalition. We were passing through nearby systems when we picked up your distress signal on the open channels. How many people need evacuation? 40,000 Vryn civilians. We have 72 hours before the star explodes, less now. Maybe 60 hours left. There was a pause on the other end. Deho could hear other voices in the background, humans talking quickly, making calculations. Then Captain Isel spoke again. 60 hours. 40,000 people. We can do this. Send us your docking coordinates and start organizing evacuation groups. We're moving into position now. First speaker suddenly stepped forward. Human captain, he said in his careful human speech. Why are you here? Your people owe us nothing. The Vryn have not been kind to humanity. Another pause. When Captain Isel spoke again, her voice was gentle. People are dying. That's all we needed to know. Iron Chronicle out. The Vryn in the command center looked at each other. Their antenna twitched and trembled. They clicked and chirped in their language. Deho couldn't understand all of it, but he caught the emotion. Disbelief, shame, hope. Hana grabbed Deho's arm. Is this real? Are they really going to try? They're trying, Deho said. He watched the ships on the screen move closer. Let's make sure we're ready. The next hours moved in a blur. The human ships reached the station and positioned themselves around it like a protective ring. Each ship identified itself. The Iron Chronicle was a massive cargo hauler, big enough to carry thousands. The Mercy's Hand was a medical vessel. The Star Runner, the Far Horizon, the Dawn's Promise. Each ship had a crew ready to work. A man's voice came over the communications. This is Jinho, navigator aboard the colony ship New Haven, sending you our capacity numbers and docking schedules now. We've stripped out cargo space to make room for passengers. Another voice, a woman this time. Mireille here, chief engineer on Mercy's Hand. We're setting up medical stations for anyone who needs treatment during transport. Send us your people with health issues first. The humans worked like a machine. They sent detailed plans. They coordinated with the Vryn crews. They asked questions and solved problems before Deho even knew the problems existed. This wasn't some rushed rescue. These people knew what they were doing, but the Vryn Council wasn't sure. Deho attended their emergency meeting. The Vryn elders gathered in a circle, their shells gleaming under the lights. They spoke in their own language, but Hana stood beside Deho and translated in whispers. Elder Vesh says we cannot trust them, Hana whispered. He says humans are known for their dangerous behavior. This could be a trick. A trick? Deho said too loudly. Several Vryn turned to look at him. What kind of trick? They came across multiple star systems to help. They're offering their ships, Elder Vesh clicked sharply. Perhaps they want our mining technology. Perhaps they want to claim salvage rights to our station. Humans always want something. Another elder younger than Vesh spoke up. Hana translated. That's Elder Kira. She says we have no choice. Accept the humans or die. Even if there's a price, we can pay it later. We will look weak, Elder Vesh said in human language, looking at Deho. Saved by the species we called primitive. The galaxy will laugh at us. Deho felt anger rise in his chest. Better to be laughed at than dead. Your people are dying. Those human ships are offering life. Take it. The debate went on, but time was running out. Another solar flare hit the station. This one was stronger. The lights flickered. The shields dropped to 70%. In the docking bays, Vryn families huddled together waiting to learn their fate. Finally, first speaker made the decision. We accept the human help, all of it. We have been proud for too long. Today we will be humble. Elder Vesh's antenna drooped, but he didn't argue. The evacuation began in earnest. The human shuttles started their runs immediately. Small craft launched from the big ships and flew to Threshold Station's docking bays. The pilots were efficient and careful. They loaded Vryn families, sealed the hatches, and flew back to their ships in smooth patterns. Deho watched from the command center. One shuttle pilot caught his attention. The shuttle was marked Lucky Strike, and it flew with impossible precision, threading through the other traffic like a needle through cloth. Who's piloting Lucky Strike? He asked Taeyang. The young officer checked. Someone named Wu Jin. He's already made 7 runs in 2 hours. 7 runs. Deho did the math. Each run took about 15 minutes. That meant Wu Jin was barely resting between flights. The man was pushing himself and his shuttle hard. Hana's voice came over his earpiece. Deho, come to Docking Bay 7. You need to see this. He hurried through the corridors. Docking Bay 7 was packed with Vryn families. But what caught his attention was the human woman standing on a cargo container, speaking in clear Vryn language. Her name tag said Bora. Listen carefully, Bora said in Vryn. The ships are safe. The humans will take care of you. Bring only what you can carry. Help the elderly and the young ones. We will get everyone out. The Vryn stared at her. A human who spoke their language perfectly. A human who looked them in the eyes and promised safety. One Vryn mother approached, carrying a child barely bigger than a human baby. You promise? The mother asked in broken human speech. You promise my child lives? Bora knelt down to the Vryn's level. I promise. We didn't come all this way to fail. The Vryn mother clicked softly and joined the line. Hana stood beside Deho. She's been doing this for hours. Talking to them. Calming them. Some of these Vryn have never seen a human before, and here's Bora speaking their language like she was born to it. Where did she learn Vryn? Deho asked. She said she just liked languages. Learned it for fun. Hana shook her head in amazement. Now it's saving lives. The hours continued. The human crews worked without stopping. They carried Vryn children when the little ones got tired. They helped elderly Vryn onto the shuttles. They rigged extra oxygen supplies when the Vryn started to panic in the enclosed spaces. A human woman named Sora coordinated everything from the Iron Chronicle. Her voice was constant on the communications, directing traffic, solving problems, keeping everyone calm. Lucky Strike, you're cleared for Docking Bay 3. Mercy's Hand, we're sending you 12 Vryn with breathing problems. New Haven. Hold position for 5 minutes while we clear the approach. She never seemed to rest. Her voice stayed steady even when things went wrong. And things did go wrong. Shuttles broke down. Docking clamps failed. The star threw another flare that knocked out communications for 10 minutes. But the humans adapted. When one shuttle died, they cannibalized it for parts to fix two others. When docking clamps failed, they used magnetic grapples. When communications went down, they used signal lights like ancient sailors. The Vryn watched all of this in growing wonder. These humans didn't give up. They didn't complain. They just worked, hour after hour, saving people who had never been their friends. By the end of the first day, 12,000 Vryn were off the station. The human ships were getting crowded. Deho could hear it in the reports. Life support systems working overtime, food supplies being rationed, sleeping space becoming scarce. But Captain Isul never mentioned stopping. 28,000 to go, she said simply. We've got time. Keep moving. Deho looked at the dying star on his screen. It pulsed with angry red light. They had maybe 50 hours left. 28,000 people to save. It seemed impossible, but the human ships kept coming. The shuttles kept flying. And slowly, impossibly, the number of people on the station kept dropping. The second day began with disaster. A solar flare erupted from the dying star at 0400 hours, bigger than anything they had seen before. The wave of radiation hit Threshold Station like a hammer. Alarms screamed. Power systems overloaded. 3 entire sections of the station went dark. Deho was thrown from his chair in the command center. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in red. Taeyang was already on his feet checking damage reports. His face went pale as he read the screens. Commander, we've lost Medical Center 2, Medical Center 5, and the auxiliary docking bay. The Vryn there. They're trapped. No power. No life support. Deho grabbed his communicator. How many people? 2,300. Mostly elderly and sick. That's why they were in the medical centers. Taeyang's voice cracked. We can't reach them. The corridors are blocked. The radiation levels are too high. On the main screen, Deho could see the human ships adjusting their positions. They had pulled back slightly to avoid the radiation. Smart, safe, the right thing to do. But 2,000 Vryn were dying in those dark medical centers. Captain Isol's voice came through. Threshold Station, report your status. Deho explained the situation. He tried to keep his voice steady, but it was hard. We're organizing rescue teams, but it will take hours to cut through the blocked corridors. Those people don't have hours, he understood. Stand by. Deho waited. He could hear human voices in the background, arguing, planning. Then Captain Isol spoke again. We're sending a team. We have equipment that can cut through the debris faster. And we have radiation suits rated for this kind of exposure. Captain, the radiation levels are extreme. Your people will die. Not if we're fast. Iron Chronicle out. Within minutes, human shuttles were approaching the dark sections of the station. Deho watched in disbelief. The shuttles were small and maneuverable, able to reach the damaged docking ports that the larger ships couldn't access. One of the pilots was Wu Jin again. His voice came over the channel, calm despite everything. This is Lucky Strike. I'm going into Medical Center 2. The docking port is half collapsed, but I think I can squeeze through. Negative, Lucky Strike. Sora's voice was sharp. That port is unstable. One wrong move and you'll be crushed. Then I won't make a wrong move. Lucky Strike going in. Deho held his breath as he watched. The small shuttle approached the damaged docking port. Pieces of metal stuck out at dangerous angles. The port itself was tilted, half torn from the station's hull. Wu Jin flew his shuttle through that chaos like he was threading a needle. The shuttle scraped against metal. Sparks flew, but he made it through. Other shuttles followed. A pilot named Hyan took his ship into Medical Center 5. Another pilot, whose name Deho didn't catch, squeezed into the auxiliary bay. The human crews poured out in radiation suits carrying cutting equipment and emergency oxygen. A human maintenance worker named Kyung led one of the rescue teams. Deho listened to his communications as the man worked. Kyung's voice was steady, almost bored, like he did this kind of dangerous work every day. Okay, we've got about 30 Vryn here in the first room. They're scared but alive. Get these oxygen masks on them. Careful. Their faces are different from ours. Make sure the seals are tight, another human voice. Kyung, the next door is jammed. We can't cut through fast enough. The radiation is building. Then we go around. There's a maintenance shaft 2 levels up. We can drop down through it. That shaft is exposed to space. No atmosphere. Good thing we brought extra suits. Come on, we're wasting time. Deho switched to a video feed from one of the rescue teams. He watched in amazement as Kyung and 5 other humans climbed through a maintenance shaft that was open to the vacuum of space. They carried emergency batteries on their backs, dragging them through the narrow passages. When they reached the trapped Vryn, they manually connected the batteries to the emergency power systems. The lights came back on in Medical Center 2. Vryn families looked up in confusion and hope. Human rescuers moved among them, checking for injuries, handing out oxygen masks, guiding them to the shuttles. But it was slow work. Too slow. The radiation levels kept climbing. Daeho could hear it in the worried reports from the human crews. Their suits were rated for high radiation, but there were limits. They were approaching those limits fast. All teams, this is Captain Isul. You have 15 minutes before we pull you out. The radiation will kill you after that, suits or no suits. Understood, Captain, Kyung replied. We've got about 800 Vryn moved so far. 1,500 to go. Do what you can in 15 minutes. That's an order. Yes, ma'am. But Daeho could hear it in Kyung's voice. The human wasn't planning to leave. None of them were. They were going to stay until every Vryn was out or until the radiation killed them. Whichever came first. Hana appeared beside Daeho. She had been running medical operations, but now she looked ready to go join the rescue teams herself. We can't let them die for us. The Vryn, yes, but not the humans. Not for people who treated them so badly. Try telling them that, Daeho said quietly. He watched the screens, watched the humans work, watched them carry Vryn children through radioactive corridors, watched them hold up walls that were collapsing, watched them give their own oxygen to Vryn families who were struggling to breathe. In Medical Center 5, something went wrong. A support beam collapsed. Hyun's shuttle was pinned against the docking port, unable to move. The pilot's voice came through, strained but controlled. I'm stuck. The shuttle's engines are damaged. I can't break free. Other human ships moved in immediately. Daeho watched as a cargo ship called Far Horizon approached. The ship was huge and clumsy, meant for carrying freight, not for delicate maneuvers. But the pilot brought it right up next to the damaged docking port. Hyun, this is Far Horizon. We're going to lock onto your shuttle with our docking clamps. When I say go, you fire your maneuvering thrusters. We'll push you out. Far Horizon, if this goes wrong, you'll be stuck too. Then we better not let it go wrong. Ready, 3, 2, 1, go. The cargo ship's massive engines fired. Metal screamed. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, Hyun's shuttle began to move. Inch by inch, it pulled free from the collapsed port. As soon as it was clear, both ships accelerated away from the damaged section. Thanks for the push, Hyun said, breathing hard. Buy me a drink when this is over, the Far Horizon pilot replied. The rescue continued. 15 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. Captain Isul kept ordering the teams to pull out, but they kept finding reasons to stay. One more room, one more group, one more child who needed help. Finally, 45 minutes after they started, the last Vryn was loaded onto the shuttles. Kyung's voice came through, weak but triumphant. Medical Center 2 is clear. All Vryn evacuated. We're coming home. The human shuttles pulled away from the dark sections. Daeho could see them on the sensors, moving slowly. Their engines were damaged. Their hulls were hot from radiation, but they were all flying, all returning to their ships with their rescued passengers. When Kyung and his team climbed out of their shuttle on the Iron Chronicle, medical staff was waiting. The humans pulled off their radiation suits. Their skin was red, burned from the exposure. Some of them could barely stand, but they were smiling. A Vryn elder approached Kyung. It was Elder Vesh, the one who had argued against trusting the humans. The old Vryn stood in silence for a moment, looking at the burned and exhausted human. Then Elder Vesh did something Daeho had never seen a Vryn do. He bowed, deep and low, all 6 legs bending, his antenna touching the floor. It was the highest sign of respect in Vry tunnels, and those are barely widal route. His face fell. No, all the main corridors are gone. The only way in is through the maintenance. The command center fell silent when Daeho explained the situation to Captain Isul. 3,000 Vryn trapped in the collapsed mining levels. 5,000 more still waiting on the upper decks. 18 hours before the star exploded. The human ships were already filled past their limits. Captain Isul didn't respond immediately. Daeho could hear voices in the background. Humans arguing, calculating, planning. He waited, staring at the screen showing the trapped workers below. They were still alive down there. Their life support was holding. But they might as well have been on another planet for all the good it did. Finally, Captain Esel spoke. We can save the 5,000 on the upper levels. Our ships have room if we push hard. But the 3,000 below? She paused. Commander Deho, I need you to be honest with me. Can we reach them through those maintenance tunnels? Yes, but it would take days. We don't have days. What if we expand the tunnels? Blast through some of the debris? Taiyang shook his head. The whole structure is unstable. One explosion could collapse everything. We'd kill them all. More silence from Captain Isul. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder, like she was forcing herself to say something terrible. Then we focus on the 5,000 we can save. It's the logical choice. The right choice. We save who we can save. Deho felt sick. She was right. Of course she was right. 5,000 lives or 0 lives. The math was simple. But knowing it was right didn't make it easier. First speaker entered the command center. The Vrin had been listening to the conversation. His antenna drooped low, almost touching the ground. Captain Isul is correct. Save those you can reach. My people below, they know. They have already accepted their fate. Hana wiped tears from her eyes. There has to be a way. There's always a way, but there wasn't, not this time. Deho opened his mouth to give the order to abandon the mining levels. Before he could speak, a new voice came over the communications. Wait. It was Bora, the human who spoke Vrin. I'm looking at the station schematics. There's another way into those mining levels. The old cargo elevator shaft. It was shut down years ago, but it goes straight down. Taeyang pulled up the plans. She's right. There's an old shaft, but it's not safe. The Vrin closed it because it was falling apart. How wide is it? Bora asked. Wide enough for cargo containers. Why? Wide enough for a shuttle. If someone could fly down that shaft, they could reach the mining levels directly, load people onto the shuttle, fly back up. Repeat until everyone's out. Deho stared at the schematics. The shaft was narrow, twisting, filled with broken machinery and unstable supports. Flying a shuttle through it would be insane. One mistake and the pilot would crash. The whole shaft might collapse, but it was possible barely. No, Captain Isil said firmly. Too dangerous. We're not sending pilots on a suicide run. I'll do it. The voice was Wu Jin, the pilot of Lucky Strike. I've been flying that shuttle for 12 hours straight. I know what she can do. I can make it through that shaft. Negative, Wu Jin. I won't order anyone to fly that death trap. You're not ordering me, Captain. I'm volunteering. Those people are dying. Someone has to try. Another voice joined in. I'll fly cover. It was Yan. If Wu Jin gets in trouble, I can help guide him out. Then more voices. More pilots volunteering. Within seconds, 5 human shuttle pilots had offered to risk their lives flying through that deadly shaft. Deho listened in amazement. These people didn't hesitate, didn't calculate odds. They just stepped forward. Captain Isul was quiet for a long moment. You're all insane. You know that, right? Yes, ma'am, Wu Jin said cheerfully. But we're insane humans. It's what we do. The captain made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Fine. But Wu Jin, you take the lead. Everyone else provides support. And if that shaft starts to collapse, you get out immediately. That's an order. Understood, Captain. Lucky Strike preparing for descent. Deho watched the shuttles move into position above the old cargo shaft. The entrance was covered with warning signs in Vrin language. Danger, structural failure, no entry. The humans ignored them all. Wu Jin's shuttle hovered at the entrance, then slowly descended into the darkness. The video feed from Lucky Strike showed what Wu Jin was seeing. Rusted metal walls. Broken cables hanging like spiderwebs. Support beams that had bent and twisted over the years. The shaft was dark, lit only by the shuttle's forward lights. It's tight, Wu Jin said calmly, but manageable. Descending at 5 meters per second. Something scraped against the shuttle's hull. Alarms beeped. Wu Jin adjusted his course slightly. The scraping stopped. He kept descending. Halfway down, a support beam blocked the path. It hung across the shaft at an angle, leaving only a narrow gap to fly through. Wu Jin studied it for a moment. I'm going to rotate the shuttle 90 degrees. Should just fit, should? Hyun asked from his position above. Probably. Rotating now, the shuttle spun slowly. Its wings aligned with the narrow gap. Wu Jin eased forward. Metal touched metal. The beam groaned but held. The shuttle slipped through, see? Easy, Wu Jin said. He continued down. The shaft grew more damaged as he descended. Sections of wall had fallen away, leaving sharp edges. Broken machinery jutted out at dangerous angles. Wu Jin flew around each obstacle with calm precision, like he was flying through empty space instead of a collapsing death trap. Finally, after 10 minutes that felt like hours, he reached the bottom. I'm in the mining level. I can see them. Lots of Rin down here. They look scared but alive, opening the shuttle doors now. The trapped Vrin workers couldn't believe their eyes. A human shuttle, appearing out of the collapsed darkness like a miracle. Bora's voice came over the shuttle's external speakers, speaking in Vrin. Everyone stay calm. We're getting you out. Load quickly but carefully. Help the injured first. The Vrin scrambled aboard. Wu Jin's shuttle could hold maybe 60 people if they packed in tight. He loaded 80. Vrin standing, sitting, holding on to whatever they could reach. When the shuttle was full past any reasonable limit, Wu Jin sealed the doors. Lucky Strike ascending. She's heavy, but she'll make it. The return journey was worse than the descent. The overloaded shuttle responded slowly to Wu Jin's controls. When a piece of debris fell from above, he had to bank hard to avoid it. The shuttle scraped against the wall, leaving a trail of sparks. But it kept flying. 10 minutes later, Wu Jin emerged from the shaft. He flew straight to the Iron Chronicle, unloaded his passengers, and immediately turned around. Lucky Strike going back in. Round 2. Other shuttles began making runs. Hyun went next, then another pilot whose call sign was Iron Bird. Each pilot descended into that terrible shaft, loaded as many Vrin as their shuttles could hold, and struggled back to the surface. Each run took about 20 minutes. 3,000 Vrin divided by 80 per shuttle meant they needed about 40 runs. They had 18 hours. Maybe it would be enough, but the shaft was falling apart. Each shuttle that flew through it shook loose more debris. Support beams groaned and shifted. On Wu Jin's 4th run, part of the wall collapsed behind him. He barely made it past before the tunnel filled with falling rock. The shaft is destabilizing, Taeyang reported. It won't last much longer. We still have 2,000 people down there, Hana said. The pilots kept flying. Wu Jin made his 5th run, then his 6th. His voice started to sound tired, but he never slowed down. Other pilots took turns when their shuttles needed repairs or refueling. The mining level slowly emptied. By the 16th hour, only 500 Vrin remained in the mining levels. The shaft was barely holding together. Whole sections had collapsed, forcing the pilots to find new routes through the debris. Every run was more dangerous than the last. Wu Jin was preparing for another descent when his shuttle's engines failed. Just died without warning. The mechanics rushed to fix it, but they needed parts they didn't have. His voice came over the communications, frustrated and exhausted. Lucky Strike is grounded. Someone else will have to take the next run. Before anyone else could volunteer, another voice spoke. I'll go. It was Captain Isul herself. I'm taking one of the cargo shuttles. I'm not as good a pilot as you crazy fools, but I can fly. Captain, you're needed on the Iron Chronicle, someone protested. My crew can handle it. Those people need a shuttle more than I'm needed here. I'm going in. Captain Isul descended into the shaft. Her flying wasn't as smooth as Wu Jin's, wasn't as confident as Hyun's. But she made it down, loaded her shuttle with Vrin workers, and made it back up. Then she went again. On her 3rd run, disaster struck. A massive support beam collapsed just as she was flying past. It clipped the shuttle's wing. The shuttle spun, crashed into the wall, and started to fall. Everyone in the command center watched in horror. Captain Isul fought with her controls, trying to stabilize. The shuttle dropped 50 meters, then 100. It was going to crash, going to kill everyone aboard. Then Hyun's shuttle appeared beneath her. He had followed her down, staying close in case something went wrong. Now he positioned his shuttle directly below hers, matching her falling speed. Captain, fire your maneuvering thrusters. All of them now! Captain Isul did. The damaged shuttle's thrusters fired, but it wasn't. The human fleet gathered at the edge of the Varan system, engines cooling, crews exhausted. 40,000 Vrin were spread across 11 ships that were never meant to hold so many. The vessels looked tired, their hulls scorched from radiation, their systems strained to breaking, but they had done the impossible. Everyone was safe. Almost everyone. Dr. Junho sat in the science station aboard the Iron Chronicle, staring at his screens with growing horror. He was an astrophysicist, brought along on this cargo hauler because the company thought having a science officer made them look professional. Now he wished he knew less about dying stars. Captain Isul, he called out, his voice tight. "We have a problem." Captain Isal looked up from her command chair. She had been coordinating repairs and trying to figure out how to feed 40,000 people with food supplies meant for a crew of 200. "What kind of problem, Doctor?" "The star. It's collapsing faster than predicted. We thought we had 2 hours. We have maybe 40 minutes before it goes supernova." The bridge went quiet. 40 minutes. The human ships needed at least an hour to charge their faster-than-light drives enough for a jump. The Vryn merchant fleet needed even longer. They couldn't run. The explosion would catch them. Captain Isal stood up slowly. "Options? We can try to jump now with partially charged drives," Junho said. "But the jump will be unstable. We might make it. We might end up scattered across 100 light-years. Or we might just tear ourselves apart when we enter FTL. Those are terrible options." "I know." Captain Isal activated the fleet communications. "All ships, this is Iron Chronicle. Prepare for emergency FTL jump. Charge your drives as much as possible in the next 30 minutes. After that, we jump whether we're ready or not." Acknowledgements came back from the other human ships. But there was fear in those voices. An unstable FTL jump was one of the most dangerous things a ship could attempt. The mathematics had to be perfect. The timing had to be synchronized. If even one ship jumped at the wrong moment, its gravitational wake would destroy the ships near it. 11 ships, 11 different crews, 11 FTL drives, each one damaged, and strained from pushing too hard to reach Threshold Station. They all had to jump at exactly the same moment with partially charged drives. The odds were terrible. Nari was the captain of the Wanderer's Rest, a small colony transport. She listened to Captain Isol's orders and immediately checked her own ship's status. What she saw made her stomach sink. Her FTL drive core was cracked, not badly, just enough to matter, just enough that when she tried to jump, the core would fail. She ran the calculations 3 times, hoping she was wrong. But the numbers didn't lie. The Wanderer's Rest couldn't make the jump. The drive would collapse halfway through, stranding the ship in FTL space. Everyone aboard would die instantly. Her ship carried 4,000 Vryn refugees and 50 humans. 4,000 lives. Nari sat in her command chair and thought about what to do. She could tell Captain Isul. But what could Isul do? Transfer 4,000 people to other ships in 30 minutes? Impossible. The other ships were already overloaded. They couldn't take more passengers. And there wasn't time. Nari made her decision. She opened a private channel to Captain Isul. "Isul, this is Nari. I need you to know something. The Wanderer's Rest isn't going to make the jump. Our drive core is damaged. We'll fail." "What?" "Nari, no. We can transfer your passengers. There's no time. You know it, I know it, but I have another idea. The Wanderer's Rest can stay behind. We'll act as a navigation beacon for the rest of you. Our sensors are still good. We can help guide the fleet through the unstable jump." "Silence, then. Nari, you're talking about staying here. You'll die when the star explodes." "I know. I won't order you to do this." "You're not ordering. I'm volunteering. Someone has to make sure the rest of the fleet gets out safely. That's worth 4,000 lives, right?" Nari tried to keep her voice steady. Captain Isul didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was thick. "We'll come back for you. We'll find a way." "Sure, of course." Nari closed the channel. She sat in her chair and watched the countdown. 28 minutes until the star exploded. 28 minutes left to live. Then her communications officer shouted, "Captain, we have a problem." "Just one?" Nari laughed bitterly. "No, ma'am. We have 5 problems. 5 ships are matching our position. They're locking onto our hull with magnetic clamps." Nari pulled up the external cameras. 5 human cargo ships had moved close to the Wanderer's Rest. Their docking clamps extended, locking onto her hull. Then those ships activated their own FTL drives, feeding power directly into the Wanderer's Rest through the magnetic connections. Captain Isul's voice came over the communications, speaking to the entire fleet now. "New plan. 5 ships will link with Wanderer's Rest. We'll share power, share the load of the jump. We'll jump as one unit or not at all. Captain, someone protested. If one ship fails, the linked ships will all fail. You're risking 6 ships instead of 1. That's correct. Anyone who doesn't want to link, disconnect now. I won't force this on anyone. None of the ships disconnected. The clamps stayed locked. The power feeds stayed active, 5 ships linking themselves to a dying vessel, refusing to let it stay behind. Nari felt tears running down her face. You're all insane. Yep, one of the other captains said cheerfully. We established that when we came to this star system in the first place. Minho was an ensign on his first deep space mission. He was 22 years old, fresh from the academy and absolutely terrified. He sat at his station aboard the far horizon, monitoring the power feeds to Wanderer's Rest. The numbers were bad. Even with 5 ships feeding power, it might not be enough. Ensign, his commanding officer said, I need you to reroute all auxiliary power to the FTL drive. Everything. Life support backups, emergency systems, everything. Sir, if we do that and the jump fails, we'll have no backups. We'll be dead in space. And if we don't do it, we'll be dead in an explosion. Make the choice, Ensign. Minho's hands shook as he worked the controls. He redirected power from every backup system. The ship went dark except for essential systems. All that power flowed into the FTL drive and from there to the Wanderer's Rest. Around the fleet, other engineers were doing the same thing. Jae-won, a fighter pilot who had been flying escort missions, landed his small ship and connected it to the power grid. Every bit helps, right? Yuna, a communications officer, maintained a constant broadcast to all ships. Her voice was the one thing keeping everyone coordinated. 20 minutes to jump. All ships, synchronize your countdown. 19 minutes 59 seconds. Mark. All across the fleet, crews worked on damaged systems. Seojin, the engineer who had held power conduits during the evacuation, was doing it again. The power feeds to Wanderer's Rest were overheating. The conduits couldn't handle the load, so Seojin and a dozen other engineers stood in the engineering section, physically holding the conduits in place, their bodies absorbing the heat and energy that would otherwise blow the connections apart. How long can you hold? Someone asked him. Seojin checked the countdown. Long enough. Better be long enough anyway. The star was entering its final collapse. Dr. Junho watched it happen on his screens. The red giant was pulling in on itself, getting smaller and denser. In a few minutes, all that mass would compress to a point and then explode outward. The shockwave would travel at a significant fraction of light speed. Nothing this close would survive. 15 minutes to jump, Yuna announced. All ships report readiness. One by one, the ships reported in. Each one listed damage, system failures, and marginal odds. But each one also reported ready. They would try. They would all try together. The Vrin passengers felt the tension even if they didn't understand all the technical details. They knew the humans were trying something dangerous to save them. In the crowded corridors and cargo bays where the Vrin were packed, they stayed quiet. They didn't want to disturb the humans who were working so hard. Elder Vesh found Daeho in one of the Iron Chronicles corridors. The human commander was running somewhere, probably to help with something. The Elder stopped him. Human Daeho, Elder Vesh said. If we die here, I want you to know something. The Vrin were wrong about your people. We saw primitives. We should have seen heroes. Daeho didn't have time for this. We're not dead yet. Tell me that after we survive. If we do not survive, someone should know the truth. Then live long enough to tell everyone yourself. Daeho ran off toward engineering. 10 minutes. The star collapsed further. The first shock waves began to radiate outward. Nothing too dangerous yet. Just warnings. Promises of what was coming. 5 minutes. Every ship's FTL drive was charged as much as it would get. The 6 linked ships around Wanderer's Rest glowed with energy. Power arced between them, visible even in the vacuum of space. They looked like a constellation bound together by light. 1 minute. Yuna's voice stayed calm. All ships, final synchronization check. Countdown from 10 on my mark. 9, 8, 7. Every crew member who wasn't working on something critical watched their countdown timers. The Vrin watched the humans and saw no fear on their faces. Or maybe they did see fear but also saw determination that was stronger than fear. 3, 2, 1, jump. 11 ships, 6 of them locked together, punched through reality into I.